Shalom, shalom, shalom to everyone watching. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero. As we continue our study to be a Jew, we are in chapter 10, the major festivals. So we're going to take a look at, in today's video, the second festival day of the diaspora. Why these differences in religious calendar between the religious community of Israel and that of the diaspora? Why is an extra day added to Rosh Hashanah, but not to the other festivals in Israel? And in what way does Rosh Hashanah differ? And why, according to Halacha and Jewish religious law, does a diaspora Jew who is only briefly visiting Israel have to observe the 2 days of festival, even while in Israel, while most of the pious Israeli Jew on a brief journey to the diaspora need only to observe the 1 day as we would be at home, although he should not publicly do anything that might be regarded as a desecration of the holy day observed by the diaspora community. Well, originally, as far back as the 5th century, before the Common Era, and long before then, according to some authorities, the additional day was observed beyond the borders of Israel because of the doubt as to which of the 2 days was the correct day to observe. The correct date for the observance of the holy day depended on which day had to be proclaimed Rosh Chodesh, something that we do every month. The first month by the Sanhedrin, which in turn was dimmed on the basis of a new moon, which was first sighted. The first day of each month could fall out only on one of the 2 possible dates, either the 13th or the 30th, the 31st day following the previous Rosh Chodesh, since the Hebrew month consists of either 29 or 30 days. The people were first notified of the proclamation by lighting bonfires atop the hills, which is a signal was then relayed to most distant areas where Jews lived, to Babylon and other adjacent countries. This is the reason why, by the way, those who take the literal meaning and the literal application of celebrating the new moon according to their own calculations err greatly, because obviously this was all done in Israel, and therefore anything outside would basically miss the actual and correct date. When hostile Samaritans began to interfere deliberately by lighting decoy bonfires, the Sanhedrin was forced to rely on the messengers, and these messengers could not always get to distant communities in time to inform the people of the correct date. And when this happened, the second day was added to each of the festivals so that the correct biblical date would not be desecrated. In the diaspora, however, this practice gradually became the norm. Now, after Hillel II, which was a big rabbi of the 4th century, 360 of the Common Era, established a fixed Jewish calendar upon the precise mathematical and astronomical formulation. This system is still in use today. So that is the precise day where the festival was known to all in advance. The sages of the Talmud, as we see in Betzah 4b, themselves raised the questions as to whether or not to continue the observance of the second day of the festival in the countries beyond the land of Israel. After all, the uncertainty was now gone. The permanent calendar had removed all doubts. There's no safek anymore. The decision of the Talmudic sages, the sages in Israel, and the fact that in the view of the many century-long traditions of two festivals becoming custom among the practicing Jewish community in the diaspora, led us to come to the point of practicing what was hallowed throughout the long usage. They therefore caution, be careful to keep the practice of your ancestors entrusted to you. Izarahu b'menhagim avotechem v'yadechem. The response was, in fact, embodied or became the permanent basis of our observance for the second day throughout the world. What had still then been observed because of doubt became fixed. In other words, became something enacted by the takana, rabbinical takana, which is the force of law. The full name of this day is Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galuyot, which means the second festival day of the diaspora in the diaspora, and it became binding on all the diaspora and only in the diaspora, not in Eretz Israel. Although the second day of the festival is noted and rooted in the rabbinic ordinance, it's not prescribed in the Torah. It has nevertheless existed throughout the centuries long after the original doubt had been resolved. The code from Maimonides to the Shulchan Aruch are unanimous in declaring the second days as an integral part of Judaism in the diaspora. The question of Rosh Hashanah differs somewhat from the other festivals, if only because it falls on the first of the month. Even in Eretz Israel, outside of Jerusalem, most of the people observe Rosh Hashanah for 2 days as early as the days of the prophets, out of doubt as to which the 2 days would be proclaimed the holy day, since the messengers were not dispatched on the holy day itself, but obviously the day after. And to nearby communities, since the testimonies for sighting of the new moon was not received till the morning, and only then would the first month be proclaimed. Even the people in Jerusalem would already have ushered the holy day on the eve of the first 2 possible dates. And it has thus happened even in biblical times when the new moon was not proclaimed till the second of the 2 possible days that the people observed Rosh Hashanah for 2 days, even in Jerusalem proper. This is when the first day that was doubtful and the second day that was certain, and after a number of confusing mix-up, this caused the temple service and avoid the possibility that people would begin to observe the first day of a sacred day, only to discover that the next day was really the holy day. The sages legislated that both days of Rosh Hashanah were to be observed annually. The enactment obviously was to apply to Eretz Israel as well. In contrast to the second days of the festival, the second day of Rosh Hashanah is not regarded as the second festival days of the diaspora. Its statutory designation in the halakha is that it is an extended day, a Yom Arichta, equivalent to the first day in every respect. The religious degree, a Gezerah, though ignored for a while in Eretz Israel after the 4th century when all doubts regarding the correct day for the observance of the holy days were eliminated, was nonetheless reaffirmed by the Gaonim and the early authorities as the proper practice of Eretz Israel. Now, those who today call for a return to the one-day observance on the basis that we have now scientific calendars can be assured of the precise date in the new month beg the real issue, because we've had scientific calendars even since the middle of the 4th century, and our people were already sure that the precise date of all holidays back in the days of the Talmud. Furthermore, the frequent contact of world Jewry now has with Israeli Jewry has only served to emphasize the full official name given to in the Talmud to the second day. Or, example, those live in the diaspora or Shel Galuyot. If its observance only adds to the Jewish awareness that one is living in Galut and does not proclaim permanent residence in the Holy Land, this too is very important awareness to preserve. The festival fall on the following dates according to the Hebrew calendar. So we have following dates, and please know this. Rosh Hashanah, you have Tishrei 1 and 2, the month of Tishrei. You got to know your Hebrew months. Rosh Hashanah, Tishrei 1 and 2. Yom Kippur, Tishrei 10. Sukkot, Tishrei 15 through the 21st. Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, Tishrei 22 through the 23rd. Pesach, Nisan the 15th through the 22nd. And Shavuot on the month of Sivan, 6 and 7. Just as it is a religious duty to sanctify the Shabbat day, so it is a religious duty to sanctify the festival and derive joy from their observance. All biblically ordained festivals are called sacred assembly, Mikrae Kodesh, and must be sanctified accordingly. The same personal preparations required for the Shabbat are also required for the festivals. At least 2 meals, one in the evening and one in the day, are required to be eaten on the festival, in contrast to Shabbat, when we have 3 meals, which is the third is called Shalosh Sudat or Sudat Shlishi, which are required. The candles are lighted. The blessings differ only slightly. The one said for Shabbat and the one word for Yom Tov for the festival is substituted for the word Shabbat. In addition, the expression Shehiyanu, the blessing which is said for every new holiday except on the 7th and 8th day of Pesach. Now we also recite Kiddush on the festival day. And so Kiddush is the sanctification. We will use wine in order to do so. So Vayehi Erev Vayehi Boker, we say on Shabbat. Yom HaShishi V'kulo Shamayim V'aretz V'chol Zevam V'chol Elohim B'yom HaShivi'i Malchuto Asher Osa V'Shabbat B'yom HaShivi'i Michol Malchuto Asher Osa V'Yiberech Elohim Et Yom HaShivi'i V'kodesh Oto Ki Bo Shabbat Michol Malchuto Asher Bara Elohim Le'asot Savri Maranan. And then we basically take the wine and we bless it. On the evenings of the Yom Tov, it's a little bit different. And we begin with the blessing of each particular one. And so you'll read on page 214 and 215 the different major blessings. You ought to know and read this section very well, because here we find Shemini Atzeret, we find Sukkot, we find Shavuot, we find Pesach, and on the night we add the blessings on the fire when we finish the holy day. We begin with lighting what they call Havdalah. And there's different ways of doing it. We have one way that you'll read on page 215, and in Birkat Shelemo and other Siddur, Sephardic Siddurs, it's read a little bit differently. So make sure you know both ways. So if you are in a Ashkenaz home or Hasidic home, you know how they read it. And if you're Sephardic, you know how to read the finishing of Havdalah, which is different, no doubt about it. And then in Sukkot, we add different blessings as well. The main blessings of Sukkot is to sit in the Sukkah and to eat in the Sukkah. And for this reason, we always say Besukkah, Leshev Besukkah. The presence of the two loaves, Lechem Mishnah, on the table is also enjoined on the festival day. At the conclusion of the festival, Havdalah is also said, except that Havdalah does not include the blessing of the light or the blessings for the spices. The basic pattern to be followed in the observance of these sacred days or patterns are in fact mentioned on page 216 and page 217. When the festival days coincide with Friday, the question of preparing the day for Shabbat may arise. For while one may cook on a festival day, one may not do so if the food is intended solely for the next day. By setting an Erev Tafshlin, you'll hear this word, an Erev Tafshlin, Jewish law ruled it's permissible to prepare on festival days the next day. But this is where they will put a plate of egg and some matzah to create an Erev Tafshlin, that whatever is cooked can be used the following day, and we will be able to cook the following day. This is done on the eve of the festival. The head of the house set aside two foods, one cooked and one baked. Small challah or matzah, fish, meat, or an egg may be used to recite the blessing. What's the blessing? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat eruv. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with the commandments and commanded us concerning the commandment of eruv. After saying the blessing, the following declaration is added. With this eruv shall be permitted for us to bake, cook, warm, kindle lights, and take care of our needs on Yom Tov for Shabbat, for this Shabbat. The food is set aside as the Erev Tafshlin may not be eaten until the preparation for the Sabbath had been completed. Now, if one had forgotten to prepare an Erev Tafshlin, or through no fault of one's own, and one cannot do so, one may depend upon the Eruv prepared by the religious head of the community, of which one is a part of. This is why it's so important to be part of a community. One should see to it that some food is prepared on the festival day so it can be eaten on that day. And thus we finish chapter 10 of the book To Be a Jew regarding the major holidays. In our next chapter, we're going to be taking a look at Passover, Pesach, no bread. So be in tune for our next chapter, our next study of Pesach. This is, in fact, the celebration of our redemption. So stay tuned for our next video, chapter 11. Shalom.